Narcissists employ 5 common tactics when they know you have them figured out. Number 1, they create trauma within you. Number 2, manipulate you and devaluate you. Number 3, they use projection and victimization. Number 4, something called equalizing. And number 5, blackmail and character assassination. Now let's go through each of these. The first one, they create trauma in you. Think about it. What happens when you're traumatized? If you're recovering from a narcissist right now, do you see what you're doing? You're trying to figure them out. Trauma keeps us engaged. It keeps us fighting for ourselves. And what most of us do is when someone traumatizes us, we want to talk about it, we want to fight about it, we want to defend ourselves, and that's what they're after. Because what do narcissists survive off of? Our emotional reaction. So once they know that you know, they're going to do everything they can to create either physical or emotional trauma, something to create a deep emotional reaction to get you to fight for yourself. Now, obviously, it's a narcissist. You'll never win the fight. But that's what they're trying to do, is develop an emotional reaction in you so that they can survive off of that. And that leads to the next 4 and how they use that trauma to keep you with them. Manipulation and devaluation. So, in this step, they use false accusations. This is where they insult you, they gaslight you, they get passive aggressive. Many will get sensual and sexual. They'll dangle that carrot. What was that movie with Nicole Kidman and, I can't remember what it was. It was a big show on Hulu for a while. It was a series. And that was their whole dynamic. As soon as he would get physical and actually hurt her, they would be highly amorous, I will just say. And that's what she wanted. She liked the aggression and the two tied together. Well, this is what a lot of, both male and female, this is not just a male dynamic. Females do this too. But they will use that because what is the greatest emotional reaction? Anything having to do with physical intimacy is going to trigger somebody to stay connected. They can also go the other way. They can get incredibly soft and vulnerable and loving and paint themselves as the hero or the saint or for how good they've been to you. So what they're looking for is a way to take the situation and manipulate it and in the process devalue you. Because for most of us, we're all codependent. And we've all been through childhood trauma, especially if you're attracted to a narcissist or you've been with a narcissist. It is confirmed you went through severe childhood trauma. It's the only way you became attracted to them. Now, if you don't think so, that means you don't know enough about yourself or childhood trauma. I don't mean that to disparage you, but that means you are very, very early in the recovery journey if you don't know about that. But the only way you end up with a narcissist is if you went through incredibly confusing and manipulative childhood relationships with your parents, okay? And so that's what you're really fighting for, is you're fighting for your parent to love you. You've placed the narcissist in that position, and it's all you know. And so your brain is seeking that type of person. It's how attraction works. We're only attracted to people that mirror our relationships with our parents and primary caregivers, or the lack of relationship with our parents and primary caregivers, all right? And so that's what they're attacking, that inherent need for us to have had attachment in childhood that we never had. And so the reason you get so obsessed, think of a 4, 6, 8, 10-year-old, a child who really wants something. They get so linear and so focused, they can't let go of it. They're like a dog on a bone, all right? They can't, think of Christmas, 22 days away. Oh my God, that's just like the world's gonna end, all right? Well, that's us when we're in that manipulation, in any of these dynamics. We are so desperate for the attachment we never got, and that's why these, tactics work on us, is we're trying to fill that empty hole that never got filled as a child. And so this is why they work so heavily. So if you're experiencing this, look at your own child and see how your parents manipulated and devalued you as well. So it's very important that you go through these things and learn how to make the connection to your narcissist and your childhood. If you can't do that, or if you don't think it's your childhood, I don't know how to say this. It just comes across as crass and demeaning, and you've been through enough. That's not my intent. But the truth is, you're very, very early in the journey and completely detached from truth and reality about your childhood. And that's the first place to look. Instead of becoming an expert in narcissism, become an expert in how to observe your childhood and look at it correctly. Because until you get in truth on that, you will not be able to navigate these dynamics with the narcissist. And so if you're stuck going back, it's all because you're focusing on the narcissist when you should be focusing on your childhood trauma. All right, number 3, projection and victimization. This is where they put their behaviors on you. They get you to take responsible for their actions and make you, well, no one ever makes us, but because we're stuck in that childlike codependent state, we believe that they make us take responsibility and force us to apologize. Nobody forces us to, but because we're in that childlike state and we've parentified our narcissist, we feel that they're making us because our survival depends on attachment. See, we're not present as an adult. We're in the childlike state, desperate for attachment. And so that's why we feel that they're making us do this, but we're now an adult. And it's our responsibility to get into truth about our childhood, take responsibility that we're now an adult. It's our job to heal our childhood trauma. We do that through healing and doing the work so that we can grow out of that maladaptive, childlike response, the false persona we had to create as a result of the lack of attachment in our childhood. And from that place, we can forgive ourselves and forgive the narcissist. So, examples of projection and victimization is when they're cheating on you, yet they call you the cheater, or they call you the narcissist, or they say you need help and the relationship would be great if you weren't such a nag and such a problem. See, they take their issues and place them on you. And because we're stuck in that codependent childlike position, we defend, we argue, we keep going, we keep trying to prove ourselves because again, we're just like a child trying to prove to mom and dad, please love me, please see the truth about me. And that's the part we need to work on to heal in ourselves. And that's what they take advantage of. And this is why it works. When they know that we know, they do everything they can to drop us right back into that childlike state because that's what created our attraction to them in the first place. Number 4, equalizing. This is confusing and difficult. This is where they use your good nature, your perfect imperfections, and your normal, healthy shortcomings, the fact that you're human and that you're limited. And so the mistakes that you've made in fights where you've said the wrong thing or you've acted in rage or called them names, and they take all of those instances and use them against you to equalize the abuse. All right, so that looks like, wait a minute, what about you last week when you did this? And you're no better than I am, and how dare you put all of this on me? You're just as bad as me. So do you see, they're always looking to equalize their mistreatment of you. They look for any little thing. Well, I told you to pick me up and you didn't, and now you're complaining that I didn't. See, you're just the same, you forget too. Whatever it may be, they're looking for any misstep. There's a difference between somebody being human and limited and making a mistake and somebody who's actively choosing to make that mistake to get an emotional reaction out of somebody. But they're equating the two so that, again, what happens? Think of the fights with your parents as a kid. Please notice me, please. Like, perfect example. In our house, my dad, we had 4 kids within 5 years of each other, all right? So it's just a madhouse, fights nonstop. Well, my dad instituted a rule. Whenever 2 kids are fighting, nobody else can join in. You got to stay out of it because otherwise the fight would escalate. Well, I'll never forget, I was like 18, 20 years old, and I'm having a discussion with my mom in the kitchen, and it's kind of heated, but my mom and I could have like deep, emotional conversations that might look to others like we're yelling and screaming, and we wouldn't yell and scream, but we had enough safety in the way we communicated that we didn't feel threatened by the other person. Well, my dad comes charging up the stairs, and he did this in part because if my mom ever felt emotionally weak, he had to take care of her, and he didn't want to do that. And so he's like, Kenneth, that's it. Stop it. Stop arguing with your mother. And I'm telling you, like a little sheep, I mean, I literally got like this, and I was like, well, Dad, I'm confused. I thought you always said if two people were arguing or having a discussion that everybody's supposed to stay out of it. I don't want to hear it. Don't do that. Don't talk that way. You can't talk that way to your mother. Boom. There it is, just shutting it down. All right? They just won't allow that to happen. All right? And that's the equalizing. My dad's misbehavior, he puts it back on me. And that's what will happen when they do that. All right? Finally, we get to blackmail and character assassination. This gets diabolical. If none of the first four work, many times they move to this. This is where they threaten you. And many times they actually follow through on destroying your property, your friendships. They steal your money. They steal your kids, which is what happened to me. They turn those children against you. That's what mine did. They publicly out you. Mine created a blog of mostly false information. Some of it was true. I had to take ownership. Some of it was true, but most of it was false and not even true. She's just assassinating my character. They tell lies to your friends. They tell lies to your family. They do everything they can to smear your character. This is when this is a really difficult one not to swallow and not to defend yourself against. Now, in many cases, these can get so severe, just call the police and get a lawyer. Like, there isn't self-improvement that'll navigate this. You just got to get the law involved, all right? But in all five of these, the ultimate goal is to trigger that hurt, wounded, adapted wounded child inside of you that hasn't done their healing from their own childhood abandonment and their own childhood trauma that they've experienced that created the attraction to the narcissist in the first place. And that's the greatest way to get us, because a child needs attachment to survive. And so that's what these five do. They prey on the child within us that hasn't been healed. And in a sense, it's the mother or father wound that they're attacking. Now, we think we're an adult and it's them. It's not. And many narcissists aren't aware that this is what they're doing. Some are. But that's their goal, is to attack the unhealed child inside of you, because it works. Because we were attracted to narcissists, that's the proof that we have tremendous wounds from our childhood that need to be healed. And that's why these five things are the best way for them to attack us when they know that we know. So what do you do about that? Well, one, stop. Stop defending. A child defends. An adult knows their truth and their reality. So if they try and project and victimize and equalize, you don't even enter the discussion, because you're like, interesting. So my partner, the narcissist, thinks the sky is purple. Am I going to argue with someone who thinks the sky is purple? At least in my life. I mean, I'm 57 now. The sky has always been blue to me. Should I really argue with someone who thinks that sky is purple? Yeah, I'm not going to do that. Am I going to argue with someone who thinks my behavior was worse than theirs? Is that my truth? No, it's not my truth. Well, because I'm not codependent, because I'm an adult, I can allow other people to have their truth. I don't have to argue it. It's just they see the world differently. Isn't that interesting that your memory of it is that way? Yeah, I don't have it that way. Thanks for sharing. Boom, stop defending. A child defends. An adult knows who they are, puts up the boundary, allows the other person to have their reality. They act out of what's called maturity and moderation and interdependence. They never lose their containment. Children lose containment. Adults are able to stay contained within themselves. They recognize nobody can make me think, feel, believe, or do anything unless I let them. I'm responsible for that. So if I don't like what my narcissist is accusing me of, I get to decide, is this true for me? No, it's not. I'm an adult. I don't need to argue. I don't need to defend. Stop. That's step number one. Step number two, stop trying to figure them out. There's a level of, in the beginning, if you're not aware of how narcissists work, yes, it's very appropriate to learn about them. Just to get an idea of these concepts and I'll get a basic background of it. But the worst mistake I see everybody in this that's caught in this dynamic is they spend years watching video after video after video that just tell you what a jerk the narcissist is, how terrible they are, how much they hurt you, and they keep trying to figure out what that, was this narcissistic, was this, did they mean this or that? And here's what they don't realize. The reason they do that is because they don't want to get into truth and reality about their own childhood. Remember, emotional mastery requires 4 things: truth, responsibility, healing, and forgiveness. They don't want to admit, wow, because of my childhood, my parents, who are perfectly imperfect, they trained me to be attracted to this. I don't want to admit that truth. 2, I don't want to get out of this childlike position. I want to stay the adapted, wounded child. I want the narcissist and everybody else to be the parent I never had. I don't want to take responsibility for my own maturation and be my own parent. I mean, that just sucks. Like, I get it. You want your parents to do that, but they never did. And you don't want to admit the truth that they didn't do that, and that's what created your attraction. And then you're going to have to do the damn work because they didn't. Those are tough things to deal with. And then I've got to go do the healing work. I've got to work with a professional. I got to read books. I got to take classes. Like, man, I got my job and my own kids and all that. No. Can I just research narcissists and blame them and stay the victim and never have to deal with any of this, never be moderate, mature? And so I'll just spend all my life trying to figure them out. I get it. I understand why that's appealing. But there's a cost to that. The biggest cost is you will transfer all of that to your children. Can you live with that? That's the question to ask yourself. Can you live with transferring all of your own unhealed pain into your children? I know I can't, but that's just what works for me. It doesn't have to work for you. Step number 3, stop engaging. This is the classic ghost them, delete, block, gray rock, all those terms. In other words, get off their back, the 3 gets of Al-Anon. Get off their back, which means quit hyper-focusing on them and everything they do, think, believe, or whatever. We do that to avoid our own life. So get off their back, get out of their way. They get to be as awful as they want. It's their life. It's none of our business. The only business we have control of and should matter is our life. And that leads us to the 3rd get on with your own life. All right, so when you get off their back and you stop trying to figure all of them out, and in the process of doing that, you get out of their way and let them mistreat you, or stop trying to change who they are and fix them, and get them to take ownership and get on with your own life. That's how you get out of this. That's when you get into truth, responsibility, healing, and forgiveness. You get on with your own life by doing the healing work in you, because that's the only thing you control. As long as you're focusing on them, as long as you're trying to figure them out and wasting all of your time there, you're robbing yourself of your own life. And that's why the 3rd get on with your own life. Get off their back, get out of their way, get on with your own life. You deserve it. You suffered enough, both in your childhood and with this or multiple narcissists. It's your turn. It's your turn. I'm sad that the people closest to you were human and imperfect and couldn't do it for you. But it's now your job. Go be the responsible adult parent for yourself that, unfortunately, you didn't have growing up.